favorites, an easy one to roll off the tongue to a certain extent. But when you talk greatest, we'll let that simmer for a minute, and we'll keep it to 2020 and go with who's the best player on the roster right now.
Best
player.
De'Aaron King. And he might not be the best pro prospect or anything, but yeah, he's the best player on the roster. And somebody tweeted me that my statistic that I've been saying about him being only one of 6 people with 50 touchdowns accounted for is incorrect. And I stand corrected. But I believe I think it's like with 10 or more rushing touchdowns and other stuff put together, or like 30 and 10, like 30 passing. It's like some conglomeration of that, where De'Aaron King is one of 6 people who has done that kind of thing.
So there have been quite a few quarterbacks of the David Klingler types that threw for a zillion yards and so forth. And look, there can't be that many, though. It can't be.
Look, I'm wrong, and that's okay. Or I was slightly misled and misquoted the stat that I thought I heard previously. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, De'Aaron King. He's a guy who comes in with 89 career touchdowns already. He had 50 in a single season. And look, that's with Gregory Rousseau being an All-American. That's with Quincy Roche being the AAC player or defensive player of the year. That's with all of the guys that I mentioned on defense. That's with elite talent talent, at least, on the roster, on the skill positions. So I would say De'Aaron King is 1, Brevin Jordan is 2. Probably the defensive ends at 3 and 4, and then you can fight out from 5 to the end of the roster. That's how I would have it, at least off the top of my head.
All right. Now, this is an impossible, and I know it. And Michael Love, thank you so much for the contribution. And again, the classiest avatar online belongs to Michael Love. Thank you so much for the contribution. Michael's right there with us each and every week. Impossible to determine, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The greatest player in the history of the university?
I mean, take your pick. It could be one of your Heisman Trophy winners. It could be, Edgerrin James. It could be one of the other Hall of Famers. And shout out to Edge for finally getting into the Hall of Fame. Reggie Wayne should be right behind you coming up next year. People would even say maybe Sean Taylor, the late, great Sean Taylor, maybe Jerome Brown for his mentality. Jim Mora. No, Myra. Yeah. Senior. Maybe Jim Burt. Well, not Jim Burt. He did steroids. But I mean, you could go down
Jim
the
Burt
list.
Did with the Giants? That Jim Burt?
Yeah.
The New York Giants?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was during the U 30 for 30. Like, he's on the sidelines and like talking. He was suspended for a time because he did the roids there in college. But I mean, there's so many great guys. Like I said already, and if you look at the numbers that are retired, even, you know what I mean? Just sticking with those guys, your Ted Hendrickses, just.
And again, Cam, it's just a different sport from baseball or basketball, where there's like skill sets. Everybody bats, everybody fields. So even though you can compare a second baseman to a center fielder, even though they play a different position, they bat, they field. A point guard's different than a center, but they shoot, they score, they rebound, they assist.
Right.
A defensive tackle and a quarterback and a wide receiver and a corner and a completely
skill sets are just so varied. I mean, look, I didn't even mention Ed Reed yet. You can talk about any of the cornerbacks. You're talking about your Antrell Rolls. You talk about your Ryan McNeils, Benny Blades, Brian Blades, Brett Perriman. Okay, and maybe some of those guys are not at the same top end as others. Your Santana Moss, Reggie Waynes, the Lamar Thomases of the world, Andre Johnson, all of the running backs, Clinton Portis. I mean, you could go in so many different directions. I think that Dan Morgan has to be in the conversation, just because he is the most decorated player at who ever played in Miami for all of the awards that he won in his time. Vinny Testaverde has to be in that conversation. Gino Torretta and Jim Kelly, just because of their playing excellence. Excuse me. Alonzo Highsmith. has to be in that conversation. I mean, there's so many guys, and I'm gonna stop naming guys because I could just name guys all day, but that's a thing where I would have to really, really sit there long and hard, have a spreadsheet, pros and cons, stats, awards, championships, records. I would have to look at such a comprehensive package to say who, is the greatest Hurricane of all time. But I will say, even in the short time span of the elite level of performance for this program, there are plenty of options.